Hello and welcome to another episode of the Serenity Resource Connector public education program where we go live each week with conversations with representatives from the various government entities and other service providers. On this episode of the Serenity Resource Connector, we're going to be talking about understanding your statutory deductions. And I'm going to invite on screen with me for the first time since we've been having the Serenity Resource Connector. And I trust the connections will hold up. We have two males in our midst for today. So I'm going to ask them to go ahead and turn on their camera as they join me on screen so we can get the conversation started. We don't want to waste a minute because we have a lot to get through. All right, so we have Audley Thomas here with me, and Audley Thomas is joining us from the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. And of course, he's going to be zoning in on the NIS contribution. Until our other guests join us, Audley,
Good
go ahead
afternoon,
and
Miss.
afternoon. Can go ahead and share how long you've been with the Ministry of Labor and Social Security and what's your role there.
Okay, I've been with the Ministry of Labor and Social Security for over 13 years, and I am presently a NIS inspector. So my job entails searching for contribution for pensioners, visiting business places to ensure that compliance where NIS is concerned is up to date, and the customers are their NIS status is up to date, and they know of the benefits that will attain from contributing to the NIS scheme.
All right, great. You just established to our viewers why you're the best person to be on here this afternoon. So I'm going to go ahead and invite on Mr. Dennis Simpson. Bring on your camera. This is a first. We want to make some history here on the Serenity Resource Connector. Have two male guests. So Simpson, go ahead and turn on your camera. All right, waiting on Mr. Simpson to come on camera so we can get the conversation started. All right, so while we wait on Mr. Simpson and the representative from the Tax Administration Department, we are gonna just go right ahead, Audley, and share with our viewers as it relates to the NIS, the National Insurance Scheme. All right, so the conversation this afternoon is really geared towards the contributors, that's the employees. We have a number. We started the Serenity Resource Connector, just to put it in context, by looking at providing some guidance for those who are leaving high school. So we have those who left high school, those who left university, and other institutions are looking to get into the working world. And we also have those who have been in the working world for some time, but they don't really understand the statutory deduction. So that's what we want to have a conversation around this afternoon, to explain the statutory deductions, what the benefits are, and basically how they can access the benefits, what points they can access the benefits, and any other pertinent information that we think they should know at this time. So we're going to have a different conversation next month where we look at it from the employer's perspective and what the employer's responsibilities are and the benefits and all of that. So go ahead and share with us about the NIS, what the benefits are.
Okay. The National Insurance Scheme came about on April 4 of 1966, and it is a compulsory contributory funded social security scheme covering all employed persons in Jamaica. It is administered under the National Insurance Act and offers some social protection through the provision of a range of benefits to worker and his family against loss of income arising from injury on the job, sickness, retirement, and death of the contributor. Persons who can contribute to the NIS scheme, they have to be 18 years and older, and they can contribute up to age 70. Once you contribute to the scheme, there are a number of benefits that you can get from the scheme. Presently, NIS is 6% of whatever the person is earning. 3% is paid by the employer, and another 3% by the employee. Once they contribute to the scheme, in the long run, they will eventually get a pension. Pension age presently is 65 years old. Contribute to the scheme up to age 70, which is a deemed retirement age. The minimum years to get NIS pension is actually 10 years. So if a person apply for their pension and they have under 10 years of contribution, they will presently get a grant, which is $50,000. Over 10 years, between 10 and 25 years, that person will get a half rate pension. Persons who contribute between 10 to 25 years get half rate pension. 26 to 35 years, they get a three-quarter rate pension, and persons over 36 years get a full rate pension. Some of the benefits: persons can contribute to the scheme as a self-employed person, a voluntary person, and a employed person. So if you're employed, the employer pays half and the employer pays another half. If the person is self-employed, they have to do what is called a SO4, and when they file a SO4, they pay over NIS on a quarterly basis. If someone was contributing to the scheme and they have migrated overseas and they have more than 3 years of contribution in the scheme, they could request to the ministry and they can contribute voluntarily. We have the application form that the office where persons can visit and get the form, get it filled out, and once the minister approves the voluntary contribution form, then those persons will get the stamp cards, which they will go to the post office and buy the stamps and contribute to the scheme. Presently, one if persons are using what is called stamp cards, it is presently 13,000 for the year or $250 per week, where they can also contribute to the scheme. All right. Some of the benefits that persons get when they contribute to the scheme. If someone is contributing and they become injured on the job, they can get what is called the EIB benefit, employers injury benefit, where we have the application form at the office where those persons could visit, get it signed up by a doctor and submit, and they could acquire some benefit. Um, there's also a benefit called the invalidity benefit. Although retirement age is 65, if someone was contributing to the scheme and they become injured before retirement age, then they can apply for the invalidity benefit, which comes before retirement. When there's some form of incapacity where the person is unable to continue work, they could apply for this benefit. Um, there's also another benefit known as the funeral grant. So when persons are contributing to the scheme, and if someone, if the pensioner passes, they can access some benefit called funeral grant, as I explained before. Funeral grant is presently $90,000. The money can be waived to the funeral home, or the applicant can let the benefit come in his or her name.
All right. You broke up there for a little
Start
while. So what
receiving
you're saying,
pension. If the pensioner
what
part, another benefit called the person has
before you
some form
move
of
on,
contribution. We have the applications in office where those.
before you
Okay,
move on, are you hearing me?
okay.
Yes.
Yes, I
Before
am
you move
hearing.
on, just to clarify, you were breaking up for a little while. So you're saying that as it relates to the funeral benefit, it can be paid directly to the funeral home or paid over to the applicant?
Yeah.
Or and who
Yes.
that applicant? Anybody can apply, or what exactly is
All
needed
right.
for?
Whoever is taking responsibility from for the funeral, once they come in with an invoice from the parlor, the death certificate, ID, and TRN, will accept the application.
Oh, okay.
Whoever is taking responsibility for the funeral.
All
But
right, understood.
pensioners money now, we have different modes of payment for pension. Some get a pension book, and some payments go directly to their account.
You
So
still do
funeral
pension
grant,
books?
which is nine, yeah, because you have some persons who may have some challenge opening a bank account, or the post office might be easier for them. So if
Oh,
those persons, for example, whose money goes to the account, if after the person passes, funds would have been sent to that particular account, then whatever was sent, then the ministry would try to recover that by deducting it from the actual funeral grant. So if the person pension was, for example, 15,000, and that went in after the person passes, then that person would only get 75,000, because some of that money would have already been paid over after the person passes. Okay?
okay.
All right. Yes.
It's clear.
Um,
What other important
Persons who
facts you want
contribute.
to share with us?
Okay. So it is very important that once persons are employed, after a year, they can always visit the office to check to ensure that their employers is actually paying over contributions in it. So we have a lot of persons who are operating business, but they are not really compliant, and it is in the interest of the employee to always check to ensure that these benefits are being paid over. Because if you don't have any contribution in the scheme and something should go wrong, then you have none of these benefits to get, because these contributions were not paid over. So it is always important when these new employees start to work to ensure that they have an NIS, furnish it to their employee so that they can pass it over to the accountant or whoever does it statutory deduction, so that the system can be updated. Because for employees, SO1s are filed on a monthly basis and deduction paid over. So if these are not paid over, then these persons, these employees will have challenges in the long run acquiring some form of benefit from NIS.
Okay. All right. I'm glad you mentioned that because that's always one of the challenges. I did a presentation some time ago, and
Mhm.
persons were taken aback by the fact that sometimes there are deductions made, but they're not passed over. But there are also other cases as well in terms of the money is not going over, because there are times when the NIS number is off by a digit or so, the information there. How do you usually treat with those
Yeah,
situations?
because what really happened, you know, the payments are made over at tax office. So whatever is entered, then
Right.
that information would be on the tax quota. But maybe it is not on our system. But maybe if we use some other system and we check the actual return and we see that person's name, then we can extract those contributions and then do some form of update to ensure that the benefit
All right.
is
All right. Thank you so much. I think this is a good point where we bring on the team from NHT. Don't go
passed on to
anywhere,
the
Audley. We're going to
right.
bring you back on, but I'm going to bring on the team from NHT now. I'm going to ask them to
Because
open their cameras.
the ceiling for NIS has
Go ahead.
okay.
You're breaking up. Or you are sharing something. You can go ahead and share about the ceiling while they, and then I'll bring on the guests from NHT. Go ahead and share. Oh, we lost Audley there. All right. So we'll bring on back Audley. Hopefully his connection comes back so he can come back on later and share the final thoughts on the NIS. But at this time, I'm gonna bring on Ms. Raquel Lewin, Compliance Inspector from the NHT. And we should also have joining us Mrs. Narvia Melbourne, Branch Manager. Is Ms. Melbourne still with us? Ms. Lewin, I can hardly see your face. Can your device be tilted a little so we can see it? There you go. Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us on the Serenity Resource Connector this afternoon. And I know that NHT has a whole lot of benefits. All right. And we have full team from NHT. So let me bring you all on so you can come and share with us. I remember that face, still looking like high school. Mrs. Melbourne. All right. I'm not seeing the connection for your other colleague, so we're going to go ahead. Miss Lewin, I'm going to ask you to shift a little to the right, a little more to the right, a little more. We're having a dance here. Perfect. Perfect. All right. So let's get the conversation started with NHT, one of those exciting agencies, top notch when it comes on to customer service and all of those good stuff. And when it comes on to compliance, I know that your team don't play. And I know that you do a great job in terms of education, but the Serenity Resource Connector is just another avenue for you to actually share um, all these good stuff that you have been doing, helping the citizens to understand about NHT, the statutory deduction, what the benefits are. A number of people don't know, especially those getting into the working world. They don't know about the option to actually access the contribution after a certain period. So we want to enlighten, or especially the younger demographic that go into the working world, as to how that works and what they can do to ensure that they are able to benefit when it comes to that time. So who is going first, Miss Lewin or Mrs. Melbourne? It seems you're muted. I see you're talking, Miss Lewin, but no, you're not. You're not muted. Mrs. Melbourne, say something. Let me see if
Are you hearing? You're hearing me?
I'm hearing you.
Okay. Okay.
Not hearing you, Miss Lewin. I'm seeing that you're talking, but I'm not hearing what you're sharing. Welcome, Ms. Johnson.
Thank you.
I can read your lips, but I'm not hearing you. All right, until that is sorted out, Ms. Johnson, Mrs. Melbourne, you want to go ahead and start sharing?
Mrs. Melbourne, should I go
Jody,
ahead?
you want to start sharing?
Okay, no
Yes.
problem.
Jody will share.
Okay. Is everybody hearing me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, fabulous. All right, so permission to share my screen.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. Okay, are you seeing my screen?
Not as yet. Let's see. Let me add it. There you go.
Okay. Wonderful. All right, so thanks again for having us this afternoon. My name is Jody Ann Johnson, the Marketing and Sales Officer in charge of the parish of Clarendon. And today we basically want to share with you guys how NHG is trying to empower Jamaicans to become homeowners. There's a number of things that we want to cover. Briefly though, we want to cover the NHG's mandate, qualifying requirements, our interest rates, the types of loans that NHG offer, the finance options that we offer, our scheme process, and then we will conclude. All right, so the NHG's mandate in a nutshell is to increase and enhance the housing stock in Jamaica. How do you become a part of this? How do you become a part? How do you become a homeowner with the help of the NHG? Firstly, you'd have to be contributing. You have to be contributing through the NHD. Currently, in order to apply for a loan, you can contribute as a self-employed person, or you can contribute via your employer, where your employer takes it from your salary and pays it over to the NHD. So that is one way. That is one thing you need to do in order to be qualified to get a loan from the NHD. The next thing is that you have to contribute at least 1 year, which is equivalent to 52 weeks. Of this 1 year, 3 months have to be the 3 months leading up to when you want to apply for the loan. And then of course you have to be between the age of 18 to 65. Now, once you fall into all of these categories, then automatically you're qualified to come to the NHT and check out the type of loan that you can get, the amount that you can get, and all of that. Our interest rates are the lowest in the industry currently. We have interest rates from 0 to 4% per year, and your interest rate is going to be determined by your income. For persons earning 7,000, which is currently the minimum wage, up to 15,000 per week, their interest rate is going to be 0%. They pay no interest. For persons earning 15,000 to 30,000 per week, their interest rate is also 0%. They pay no interest. For persons earning 30 to 42,000 per week, their interest rate is 2%, and for persons earning 42,000 and above, their interest rate is going to be 4%. And then, of course, we have reductions in interest rate based on certain categories that person might fall into. So, public sector workers get a reduction. Persons who are 55 years and older, they get a reduction. and persons with disability also get a reduction in these already very low interest rates. Right, so the types of loans that we offer at the NHD include loans to buy, loans to build, and loans to improve. Loans to buy are for first time homeowners. So you don't own a home, your name is not on the title of any property where there's a house, you can apply for any of these loans. First, we have the open market loan, which is our loan limit currently is $6.5 million. So with the open market loan, one person can apply for up to $6.5 million, subject to affordability, of course. Two-person get $13 million, and they can use this money to purchase a habitable house on the open market. We also offer our house lot loans, which is $2.5 million per person, $5 million when you co-apply. And this is used to buy a lot, a residential lot. And then, of course, we have the cluster housing facility, where we offer a minimum of three persons the option to combine their house lot loan amounts to purchase a large plot of land to subdivide it and get their individual titles, so that each person have their individual titles, so that they can go ahead and use their additional loan to build on those separated lots. So our loans to build is going to include our BOL, which is build on own land loan, and then we have our construction loan. Our build on own land loan is, as the name suggests, you have your own land and you want to build on it, we facilitate that as well. You get up to $6.5 million per person, 13 million when you co-apply. And the construction loan now is the difference between what your overall amount, which is a 6.5, minus what you had gotten for the house lot. The whatever is remaining is what you get to help you to construct on that land when you're ready for construction. Our loans to improve include our home improvement loan, which has a limit currently of $2.5 million per person, 5 million 5 million if you co-apply. And then we have our 10 and 15 plus loans, which is offered to persons 10 or 15 years after they would have received their first loan. 10 years after for public sector workers, 15 years after their first loan for private sector workers. And we have our solar panel loan, which is any of these first three loans. You once you're qualified, you can access it to install a solar panel on your house. Or the finance options that the NHG offer to assist our customers include our contribution refunds towards deposit, which is your contributions that is not yet due to you for refund. You can access that amount to assist you once you find something you want to purchase. We will give you this amount to assist you with things such as your deposit, your shortfall, your surveyor's ID report, legal fees, tax payments, and everything that you see listed on the screen. We also have the home grant, which is $2.5 million worth of money that you don't pay us back, that is given to you once you're qualified. How do you qualify for this? You'd have to be contributing to the NHT for at least 7 years, and your income cannot exceed $15,000 per week. Once you meet all of these, then you would be qualified for the grant of $2.5 million. The grant, however, is an add-on a loan that you're already applying for. So you can't come to the NHG and say you just want the grant alone. You'd have to be applying for a loan. Let's say we do your affordability check with your age and your income, and you qualify for, say, $4 million. Once you've been contributing for 7 years, once your income doesn't exceed $15,000 per week and is above the minimum wage, then we will add the 2.5 grant to the 4 million. So in total, you're getting 6.5 million, but you're only paying back $4 million. For single applicant, you can get your loan combined with the grant, you can get a maximum of 7, and for co-applicants, you get a maximum of $9 million. Right, so other options that we offer is our giant finance mortgage program, which is, as mentioned earlier, NHG's limit is 6.5 million per person. If it is you see a property for sale that is above that amount and you don't have anybody else to join with, then you can approach a financial institution to get the difference. So NHG make the funds available to the bank, and we use any of these banks here. We have NCB, we have Shagore, there's Scotia, there's VMBS, there's JN, there's First Caribbean, First Global, and others. So NHG made the funds available to them. You approach the bank, you tell them that you want to purchase the property. They will request from NHG a letter stating how much you qualify for of the NHG money and what your interest rate should be. You will get the 6.5 NHG funds at our interest rate based on your income, and then the bank would add their amount at their interest rate. We also have pari passu arrangements, which is a legal agreement between two institutions to share the ranking on the title for a loan. And then we have microfinancing, which is a partnership between NHG and some of the credit unions that offer up to $1.5 million to contributors to do stuff such as deposits for construction, for legal fees, for home improvements, or to purchase property. And so the NHG schemes, so from time to time, the NHG develop housing schemes in various areas of the country. There is a system that we use to determine the successful applicants for these schemes. We take into consideration a number of things. We look at the parish where you live, we look at the parish where you work, and we also take into consideration the number of points that you would have accumulated over the years of you contributing. So if you live and work in the parish where the scheme is, you would be at a great advantage of being successful rather than somebody that live and work outside of the parish. And then of course you get points based on how long you've been contributing. Right, so in conclusion, NHG is committed to providing quality housing solutions for all Jamaicans, and we have several low interest rate loans for contributors who are interested in buying, building, or improving. Yeah, that concludes my portion of the presentation.
All right, great. Miss Lewin, are you coming in now? Let's try that connection again. Thank you so much, Miss Johnson. It was. I hope I'm getting it. Yes, Miss Johnson. Thank you so much for that detailed presentation with the different areas, Miss Lewin. We're still not hearing you.
Are you hearing me now?
Loud and clear. All right, turn off. Let me mute the other device to get enough feedback.
Close it. Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm not hearing them though. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we're hearing you. I was muted to allow you the floor to share.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Raquel Lewin. I'm the Compliance Inspector for the Clarendon branch. My fellow coworker Jody, she just give you a bag of goodies. But in order for you to get these goodies, you have to come to my department, which is the compliance department. All right. In order for you to qualify
That's
for
the
a loan,
exciting department. That's the exciting
yes,
department when
yes,
all the actions
yes,
take
this is
place.
exciting department. Yes. All right. In order for you to get the bag of goodies that Jody just offered to you, you have to be a contributor to the NHT. In order for you to be a contributor to the NHT, you can do it under two categories. Either you're employed to a business or you're self-employed here, or you can be a voluntary contributor. I'm going to start off with the employer aspect of it. Employer means you work with a company, like I work with NHT. As an employer, you have responsibilities. You have persons working with you. So it's your responsibility to take NHT from their salary, whether they are paid weekly, fortnightly, or monthly. From your salary, the employee salary, you take 2%. And the employer pay a matching 3%, which add up to a total 5%. When you're employed to a business, make sure you have your NIs and your TIN card. If any employers are on this platform that I'm talking to, these are very important. Your employee need to have your NIs and your TRN card. As the representative said from the NIS office, that's where you get the NIS card. And you get the TRN from the tax office. So those are very two important documents that you need to have. NHT have a lot of goodies that we offer. The persons that they pay the 2% from your salary. As Jody said to you, you can get loan from that. And it doesn't take you very long before you can get a loan from the NHT. You just need to be paying for at least a year. And everybody know, so time fly, we just start January and December. So if you start paying from January, by the end of December, going into next year, January, you have 52 weeks. And that 52 weeks would allow you to get some of the goodies that Jody just explained to you. NHT payment for employers is done on a monthly basis. We no longer collect contribution here. Everything is done at the tax office. The employer file what you call a SO1. The SO1 is done on a monthly basis. So you see persons who are working fortnightly and weekly, is at the end of the month that they file the SO1 and they show all the persons that they are paying for. And on that form, we're going to have their NIS and their TRN and the income that they earned for that month. And then they pay over your 2%. So don't believe that it's just you alone paying it, because the employer has to match it back with a 3%. The good thing about your 2% is that you get it back. But guess what? You know, everything that comes in life, we have to keep it for you a little time. So we keep it for 7 years and then we pay back to you in the 8th year. But we don't just give it back the money like that, you know. We give us a little bonus and we give you a little interest on it. So you see, it's good to pay NHT. All right. The other aspect we have are self-employed persons. You know, you have domestic helpers, you have hairdressers, you have farmers. We have things for them too, because we can't leave them out. Not because they're not employed. We have their package, but guess what? They have to file what you call a SO4. But the SO4 that they file is like an income and expenditure. For example, I'm a hairdresser, and for the year, I make, say, $500,000. From that $500,000, I take out my little business expense. What you use and buy flour and sugar at home, you know. What you use and buy for the business. You know, you have to pay, if you have booth, you have to pay for the booth rental. Normally, the booth rental normally include light and water. You have to buy products. So, for example, all of those come up to 100,000. You'd have, that would be your expense for the year. You'd minus it from the 500,000, and you have 400,000 leave for yourself. On that 400,000, that's what you pay NHT on 3%. So that would work out to roughly what? Nearly 40,000 per month. From that 40,000 a month, you pay over 3% you pay for NHT. And that 3% that you pay for NHT will allow you to get all the goodies that Jody just explained to you. But you have minimum wage, and the minimum wage is 7,000 per week. So whilst you're earning at least minimum wage, and you're in the age from 18-year-old, you can start paying NHT. So don't bother think say you're too young. From you reach 18 and you're working, you can start paying NHT whilst you're earning at least $7,000 per week. For these persons that are self-employed, what they do, they pay quarterly at the tax office. They pay from January, February, March. By March 15, they pay April, May, June. That's the other quarter. June, July, August, that's the other quarter. September, October to December, that's the other quarter. So you'd have 4 quarters for the 12 months to pay NHT. But guess what? If it just as though the employee take it out of the employer salary, it's your responsibility to make sure that you pay on time. Because if you don't pay on time, you're going to have a problem when you're ready for your loan. So you need to pay your contribution on time. At the tax office, you file SO4. SO4 is what you actually earn for that year. And then you file an estimated for the coming year. For example, 2020 just finished. You'd have filed SO4.
Ms. Lewin,
yes.
Let me break it there. We're gonna have that conversation. We want to separate it so it don't seem like too much. So we're gonna have that conversation for the self-employed and others. I'm inviting you all back next month to have that conversation for the self-employed and the employers. But no, we want to focus on the employees so they can have a better understanding as to what exactly to expect, what their role can be to ensure that their contributions are being paid over, that kind of thing, right? Right. We want to put them in the spotlight this afternoon. You're muted.
For the employees, the employer has the responsibility to take NHT from their salary, whilst they are earning at least minimum wage, which is $7,000 per week. If you're getting a job, the employer is going to ask you for your NIS and your TRN card. Why these 2 documents are important? At the end of the year, when the employer file what you call a SO2. So sometimes you may hear a person say that they come to the NHT, they just start working and they come to the NHT and they're not seeing the contribution on the system. It takes the employer 1 year before they can file the document to show all the persons that they paid for. So we normally ask them, from you have your pay slip, then you can just hold on until the end of the year. You come in and we can check whenever they file the SO2. We can check to see all the persons that they filed for and tell them if they have paid NHT for them. Young persons coming up, make sure that you get a pay slip. The pay slip coming like your legal document, because you're going to come to me, Raquel Lewin, to say that you were working at Angia's boutique and you have no pay slip and I have nothing to show. You have nothing to show me that you have ever worked in there. So make sure that you get your pay slip, because the pay slip is what prove to say that you are working at the company for that period. Sometimes we have persons who, you have the mix up with the NIS card and the TRN card. And they may come and they say that they are working at Jim Brown for over 15 years, but they're not seeing them. So sometimes there's a mix up with the NIS number. So what we normally do, we normally send you back to the company to get a verification of contribution letter. That letter show all the places that you have worked with and the amount of NHT that you pay for that year. So I'd go to John Brown and I said, I need a verification of contribution letter. John Brown will give me a breakdown of 2014, 15, 16, the contribution that I've paid and the amount of weeks, and then we could use that letter to update your record. So that's basically what we do. And for normally persons who are employees too, they may say they're working at this place and they want a benefit. But as I said before, you can't get a benefit until 1 year time after you have been paying NHT. That's roughly 52 weeks. That's what you have a paying. So what I'm telling you, employees, make sure when they are employed, you have your TRN and your NIS card. Just as how you need your passport to go foreign, you need your payslip. So don't let your employer tell you that you don't need a payslip. You need your payslip. Because that's what we use here in order for you to get a loan and to see that you're currently contributing to the NHT. And for my responsibility as a compliance inspector, I go out to make sure that the companies are paid over contribution for their employees. So that's what we do. We go out to do audits, the verification. That means that they are taking care of you. And there's no problem for you to come in to us at the NHT and ask us if this company is paying for you. Then we can go ahead, check our system and to verify. Then if we checked and there's nothing there, then that's where my department comes in to go and check the company to make sure that we're paying for you. And if not, then we do an audit to make sure that they have paid for all the persons that they are working with them. So that's basically what we do for the company side of NHT. So they'll take 2% from your salary and the business maker patching 3%. But remember that the money that they're taking from you is like a means of savings because you get it back along with a little interest on it. All right. So the next time I'll tell you about the self-employed and the voluntary contributor part of it.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
That's a whole other session by itself. I want to understand it carefully, right? And that is so important because it makes persons feel better when they know that, boy, is not that they're paying taxes because they see everything as taxes, So we want to let them understand that they're making a contribution and that they'll be able to benefit from making this contribution. So thank you so much. Go ahead.
Let Melbourne explain to you, because I know some of us here, we're on this world, but not for every day. So sometimes we pass it off. And when you pay NHT, you still can get back your money. So Miss Melbourne, explain that aspect to them.
That is very important. That's one thing that is guaranteed.
Okay. Good afternoon again. Okay. As Miss Lewin had spoken about the 2% that is paid over to the NHT for the employee, what we want to remind persons, because some persons don't know, and so we want to advise persons that if it is, whenever you retire, you get a total refund. So it means that all funds that were deducted from you, even though over the years you might get the contribution, we're currently paying back anything paid from 1976 up to 2013. So come next year, January, because we always start at the beginning of the year, we will be paying out 2014. But let's say that I am at the age now and I retire. You would know that I would have contributed for the period 2020 and a portion of 2021 if I retire this year. So what we're saying is that you can visit the NHT as a retiree and claim all that refund. So all that money that was paid with interest. Now, as Ms. Lewin said, sometimes, death, although it's an appointment for everyone, it comes at different times. And so we may have our loved ones who are paying their contributions and they die. And sometimes we don't know that we can visit the NHT and put in what we call a death claim. The only stipulation we have in respect to a death claim is that if there are minors involved, so if there are children under the age of 18 years, the NHT will not handle that claim. That claim is handled through the Administrator General Department. Yes. So once it is that there are children under the age, then we don't handle that claim, but otherwise we will handle those death claims. And we normally follow the same rule and guide. If there is a spouse, if there's no spouse, then we look at children. And if there are no spouse, no children, then we look at the parents of the deceased. And if there's none of that, we go and we follow a hierarchy coming down. What we also want to point out is if the person who is deceased has a spouse, the spouse can give consent for a child to collect. If there is no spouse and there are children, the children can give consent for one individual to collect. So we don't just go ahead and process a claim and then somebody turn up the next day to say, but it's my father too. I never tell them they could get the money. You understand? So we follow a system and there's a process. But what we're saying is that if it is that the person contributed to the NHT and it is, whether it be by death or retirement, you can claim total refund.
Awesome. Here it is. I'm learning something new today as where that is concerned. So then it's this is probably something that when persons are writing a will, they don't think of actually adding to the will, but it's a good idea to add it to your will so they know exactly who should actually claim for the refund.
Yes, that is true. You know, sometimes we don't think that we have those monies. Yes, you can put it in the will, and we will, once the will is probated, we will act accordingly. But there are so many times, you know, people think that if I write a will, it means I'm going to die tomorrow morning. And so some persons die without a will. What the NHG does, however, if you die without a will, we make an initial payment of 50,000 until either the will is probated. So the initial payment is it, so we wait up till the will is probated, then you get the difference, or until the Administrator General rules as to how it is that your assets and all that you have left behind should be divided.
That's great news. So if it is that the amount that they get from the NIS is not enough to offset the funeral expenses, they can come and get that 50% to make up from the NHT.
50,000, yes, yes. They can get the 50,000 upfront, but let us say that the person died, you know, because sometimes some of us have some big monies. So in their refund, they might have 400,000. So while it is that we give the first 50, after everything is finalized and we know who is to inherit whatever it is, then they will get the other 350.
Great. All right. Just for clarity, as it relates to retirement, is it that once they're retired, they don't have to wait that 7 years to access the refund?
Yes. Once they retire, we give total refund, everything. Yes.
All right.
So they just bring to us, they just have to bring the necessaries because, you know, once we retire, we get that letter to say that we are now retired. And you know, like our teachers, they don't all wait till 65 and 70. Sometimes they retire earlier. Once we get the letter stating that they are now retired, then we work with it along with their NIS, TRN. You know, we don't do nothing without your TRN. Say NIS, your TRN, and your birth certificate and your ID, and we're good to go. And that very important letter.
Okay, so we can't wrap this session until you share how they can access, because it's so convenient. I have the app on my phone. So once I get that notification to say that NHT is now paying refund, you can submit, and it's so share how those who have been working for some time, how they can actually access the contribution refund.
All right. So as Ms. Lewin had said before, once it is that we're paying the yearly refund, we have our online app, which you go on and you apply for your contribution refund. You can apply for both there, the regular and the retired as well, and even the deceased one. The only issue is that what we do, you'd have to bring in those additional documents physically to us. So once it's the regular refund, you just go ahead, do it, and it's processed. And, you know, we can pay to your bank account, or you can go and pick it up of one of these agencies. But once it is that you are doing a deceased claim or a retired claim, once you go through, it is going to give you a list of documentations at the end on your receipt to say that the following documents need to be submitted. Once you get that, you just gather the documents together. And as we said before, your letter, your birth certificate, the NIS, the TRN, and if you're doing a debt claim, you know, we're going to want to see the debt certificate. That is very, very important.
Indeed.
And so forth. So once you see that, and then you come to us. If there are any additional documents, we have it. So we'll ensure you get it completed, and we send it off to our head office for final processing.
Wow. They make the process so easy, and that's something
it is.
I didn't hear that. Go ahead. Go again, Ms. Lee.
That was not for your ears.
All right.
But
All
it
right.
is a very
Process.
easy process.
It is, and
We
part
can
of the
say-
thing is
can
that
start
if
reconciling.
once we guide you through, you should not have any issues. The only time you'll have issues is not you supposed to claim it, and you don't
Or
have
they
the
have more
requisite
than or
documents.
duplicated NIS numbers.
Yes.
Or duplicated.
Or duplication. Yeah.
Duplication of NIS numbers. But
Oh, okay.
moving forward, we have less persons not getting the money because even my department now, we're reconciling all the returns that persons can get the money by January. So they're not supposed to have any e-cups.
Okay. Yes. A lot of things are changing for the better, and I'm really appreciative of that. And that's why I want to share so everyone knows that things are really getting better. Let me pause to thank Sabrina for sharing the stream on Facebook. I saw you just shared just now. Thank you so much for that. So your community can see what's going on here. Thank you, Calvin, one of my classmates from high school. Appreciate you joining. Thank you. All right. So thank you so much for that. Don't go anywhere. We're going to bring in Disha Needham from the TAJ, Tax Administration Jamaica, to share from that side. That's why we call it the Resource Connector. So we're putting the pieces together so you know exactly where to go to get what, when you need to go to NHG, when you need to go to NIS and the tax office. So we bring it all together. So ladies, continue to stay with me in the studio while I bring on Disha to continue the conversation. Disha, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you and good afternoon.
Afternoon. It's great to have you. We have been talking about this for quite a while. Now
Yes.
the time is here. Yes.
Is my audio
Perfect. It's
clear?
perfect. It's
Very
perfect.
good.
Right. So go right ahead and just share who Disha is, what do you do at the TAJ, so we can set the pace for your presentation.
All right, good afternoon to everyone who is on this platform. And again, thank you, Mrs. Winsome, for inviting TAJ to be on this forum. My name, as you'd have heard, Disha Needham Barrett. I am a taxpayer education officer, and our mandate is pretty much being a part of forums like these. We do seminars, we do a number of things, but anything that relates to public education. So the sector doesn't matter, whether it's a school, a church, a platform like this, anywhere that information is needed, then TAJ will show up. And so I am here to do just that this afternoon.
All right. Let me take it that you're ready for your presentation. Let's get that ready for you. Let's see.
All right, so while you're getting there, just to give a background. All right, so my colleagues, you know that TAJ partners with our agencies, the NIS and the NHD. We are very big on the partnership, and it is a partnership that has been going on successfully from as far back as we can remember, but more so since we have had an amalgamation of the use of the form that was spoken about today. Two returns, SO2, which is the employer's annual return, and the SO4 that you heard being mentioned, which is the individual self-employed income tax return. So that is the background in terms of our relationship. And so for persons who are employed, you would want to have an understanding of what it is that is happening on your pay advice. And so the invitation this evening for me is to just provide a background as to exactly what it is about. All right, so ready, Winsome? Can move ahead?
Yes. Let's
First
see.
slide. Moving from the first slide.
All right, let's see how best we can navigate this, as I'm using the same device. Let's see.
Okay.
Let me make sure.
All right. So pretty much the objective is to just give, this is a general presentation, and we want to at least be able to understand, what exactly the taxes that we pay, what are they used for? And something that many persons may not know is that there's actually a difference between taxes and contributions. So though your pay advice may show you a number of things, not all that is on it are really taxes. So we want to have an understanding of the differences that exist where taxes and contributions are concerned. And we want to just have an understanding of the different rates that are involved. You would have heard NHT giving the rates in terms of the employee's portion and the employer's portion. So pretty much we will be learning a little bit more of this. All right. Now, what is important to note is that when we speak about emoluments or gross emoluments, this is clearly defined in our Income Tax Act, and it is pretty much anything that you receive in the form of payments from holding an office or being employed, and it is something that is due and payable at a prescribed time. And these can be in the form of rental benefit over time, bonuses, whatever allowances that you may get. They are taxable by law. However, it is important for me to explain to you that any one of those emoluments that by law is taxable, by an application to the Ministry of Finance, any particular industry or an organization can apply to the ministry to have that particular benefit be made exempt. Let me give you an example. Traveling payment is taxable. Traveling allowance is taxable. However, in the public sector, for example, like myself or as an education officer, I'm a traveling officer, so that particular allowance have been made tax-free. In the private sector, there are a number of churches who have also applied for the traveling allowance for their pastors or those in pastoral duties to be made exempt as well. So by virtue of the benefit that you receive or the amount that you receive in the form of money or kind, it is taxable. However, special provisions are in place where an approval can be sought and granted for it to be made tax-free. So that's something I want you to be clear about. All right. Now, who is an employee? This is something that we want to be clear about. Now, the fact that you may have a job work, you're doing something and you require someone to come for a few days or a few hours to do that work for you. You give them, you agree on a prescribed amount, and you set the delivery timeline in which you want the service to be performed. And the person has done that and moved on. That is not an employee. An employee is someone like myself and my colleagues. We report to work at a set time. So we don't just go to work at the NHT or the NIS or TAJ whenever we feel like. We have a prescribed arrival time. We also have a set and prescribed lunch hour. And also, we are given the tools to perform our duties. So we are not responsible for finding our own laptops or computers, right? And things like that. We are provided with the necessary resources in order to perform our duties. So that's what makes us an employee. The employer is pretty much the person who has hired us to do all that we have just described. Now, I want us to understand that even though we may be earning, right, we don't want persons to have an understanding that once it is that I have earned an income, the government is ready to just take out my money just like that. Taxes and contributions, they are in the form of NIS, NHT, education tax, PAYE, right? However, the earnings is the payment where some of these are concerned are determined by the income that you earn. Now, the minimum wage in Jamaica currently is $7,000. Now, you ordinarily, an employer must not pay below minimum wage. Okay, so let us get that clear. However, there are instances where you will have an employee who is an employee, even though they may not necessarily be meeting the 40 hours work week, but they are earning, and because of the agreed in terms of the contract, in terms of payment, you may find that their income may dip below the minimum wage. One of the typical examples that I can think of is maybe a cook or what we call them at the schools, a cook at a school, say a basic school, or a gardener, a government basic school, or a privately owned but government assisted basic school. So anywhere the early childhood education, you may find that, okay, they operate within, say, a 6-hour time frame. And the cook may not necessarily be required to work in an entire day. And so based off the rate, you may find that they earn below minimum wage. When that happens, the law asks that all deductions, right, will not be applied to this particular person. So the person who earns below minimum wage, because of the nature of their work, they will only pay NIS, which is a national insurance scheme, because there is no minimum wage attached to that. So regardless of what you earn, and why, we want to know that you're actually contributing to your pension. Right? So we want you to understand that even though you'll find a unique situation like this, the person will be required to contribute to NIS. However, the PAYE, which is the pay as you earn, this amount in law is determined by the amount that you earn. So therefore, if I am a monthly paid person, unless I'm earning over $125,008 after all of my allowances are out in terms of my NIS, which is one of the allowance, then I will not be paying PAYE. And this one is the biggest of them all because it's at the rate of 25%. So therefore, if I'm earning, say, $130,000, what I would be paying the 25% on is not the 130. It is the amount in excess of the $125,008. And that is what is paid at the 25%. So we want to make sure that persons are understanding that I don't pay PAYE just because I'm earning as an employee. I have to be making an amount of $125,008 on a monthly basis, or $57,696 on a fortnightly basis, or for the week I must be earning in excess of the $28,848. And you may figure by now that, oh, I have gotten those is because the annual income tax threshold is $1,500,096. So if I divide that by 12 months, I get the 125. There's 26 fortnights in a year. So if I divide that by 26, I get the 57. There are 52 weeks in a year. If I divide it, that's how I'd end up with the 28. So I think we would understand that by now. All right. So I heard Miss Lewin would have mentioned that the employer has a duty to calculate and deduct the taxes. They must do that. The law does not give them the right to enter into an agreement with an employee and not do this. They are culpable by law, and we know that we at the NHT, the NIS, and TAJ, we all have a compliance unit, and where we have found that this is happening, we are going to go after it. All right. So we want you to understand that it's very important. We want you to understand that your employer has a responsibility to make the payments timely. Why? It affects your benefits. So when you're ready to go to the NHT wants to know that your payments are up to date. We're in the month of September, and August deduction should be in from the 14th of September. And September's deduction is going to be due by the 14th of October. So the 14th of every month, the deduction must be paid over. And when they're paid over on time, they assist us in accessing our benefits when we are ready. Similarly with the NIS. And that's why I'm explaining the partnership is very important with us and our partner agencies, because everything works. And the amalgamation of this one form affects each entity. All right. So the features of your pay advice, I would have said it before. You're going to see things like PAYE, education tax, national insurance scheme, NIS, or national housing trust. Now, the first two, those are what we call taxes, right? So the PAYE is pay as you earn. So while we are earning, once we are earning above the threshold that I spoke to about, then we would be paying the PAYE. So if your income falls below that, whether weekly, fortnightly, or monthly, then you will find that you will not see the first one appearing on your pay advice. The second one is the education tax. Now, the education tax, that is another tax that you will find be deducted on your pay advice. And I'm going to be explaining a little while how the taxes are used. The other two, my colleagues would have spoken about, and we know the many benefits to be had from being a current contributor to both the NHT and the NIS. So we want to make sure that those are in and they are up and running. Now, when we speak of the taxes, they contribute towards national development. So what it means is that everybody benefits from the taxes that are paid, right? So the PAYE and the education tax that you will see on your pay advice, they are contributing towards national development. And I'm going to be explaining a little bit further in 2 minutes. The contributions that benefit the individual contributor. So don't go to the NHT stating that you want a housing benefit if you are not a contributor. The contribution is a personal thing. You have to be. So while national development, meaning that the country benefits, the contributions in the form of NIS and NHT, they benefit the individual. So if God forbid and you die, your family don't need to go to the NIS looking at funeral grant. Because if you are not a contributor, then there's no way a funeral grant could be accessible to you. The pension is another thing. And that is why even now the government has to be trying to find a way to do a sort of pension for those persons who have not contributed in a formal way and really needs support. All right. So what is the taxes used for? This is something that a lot of persons may not even think about or know. The taxes are used to fund the education system. For those of us who may be on this platform, we have our children going to schools. If anyone has a child or children going to high school, the book rental system that we hold so near and dear to us. When I look and I see some of the books being sold for $4,000 and odd per one, and these are mandatory text. And imagine a parent having more than one child attending high school and having to find these books up front. But the book rental system allows them to be able to rent the book at a minimal cost and be able to function because they would have had this resource. The payment of our teachers, right? The building of additional schools. Recently, we had a drive moving from the shift system. So it requires additional classrooms, additional schools. It requires a whole lot of things. And it's the taxes that would have been used to fund these. We also have what is called the PATH program, which is doing considerable things. And we know that a lot of our children, right up to university, are benefiting from the PATH programs. The health system, it doesn't matter if you're a contributor or not. Remember now, unlike NHT and NIS, no one can bar you from entering the schools. No one can bar you from entering the health system either. So you go to the doctor, you go to the hospital, sorry, not the private practitioners now. Going to our hospitals, receiving the care, unless it is that you want to urgently get an x-ray or some results and you go privately, those are done at the hospitals at no cost to you. The only thing that I see that is being asked for is just a registration fee. I personally have had reason to be at the hospital, and I am asking the hospital, please use my card for this service. And they are saying, we can't accept your card because it is a public hospital. It is a free hospital. So the health system is able to function because of the contribution of our taxes. It is used for things like research. And boy, if I don't know, I know we all need we want an outcome for cancer. We want an outcome for even what is happening now with the pandemic. It is from the taxes that research is done. National security. When I speak about national security, the police officers, the soldiers, we're surrounded by waters, our coast, our border patrol officers. We know that we have an airport, those coming in and out of Jamaica. So we want our custom officers, all these persons, the taxes are used so that there is national security. The roadways as it relates to infrastructure and our signs. I am going to a new place yesterday. I have to be looking for the signs to tell me which direction to go. So the signs, the roads, the fixing of the roads, our bridges, all of these things, the street lights, that's where the infrastructure is coming, the taxes are used for. And finally, the social services. When you think of the social services, there's so much. I mentioned PATH and a whole lot of those. We're in Clarendon here. We know of the area, we call it the Arms House. We know there's a better name for it. But it is also an area that is used to help those who don't have families that are taking care of them. And so that is what your taxes are used for. All right. So NIS would have spoken to a little bit about this. And we know that this is one of the compulsory contributory taxes. Contributions. NIS would have spoken about it. So these are the two main contributions, the NIS and of course NHT would have spoken about theirs as well. So they have explained to you and also their rates, right? And so pretty much that is what the payroll is. The pay advice is about. Now, this is a breakdown for you. Going on a bit, Winsome. A little bit further. Next, right. Now, when you look at this, what it is pretty much telling you is the tax or contribution, the portion that you, the employee, is responsible for, and the employer is to deduct and remit, and the employer's matching contribution, and the basis for the calculation. Now, NIS and NHG, as we know, those are contributions. And the rates currently for the NIS is 3%, and it is to be matched by your employer in the same rate. So what you'll find is 6% being remitted on your behalf to TAJ. The next one is the NHT, and you'll find that the 2% is deducted from your income, from your earnings, and the same way it is matched with 3% by the employer. Now, if you notice the basis for the calculation, it says gross emoluments. What it means is that whatever it is in total, the percentages described just now are applied directly. So if I earn $10,000 for the week, it's the 3% on that $10,000 for NIS, matched by my employer, who's going to find the 3%, not out of my salary, but using my salary as the basis to match it. Similarly, with the NHT, I'm going to find 2% on that $10,000, and it's going to be matched with 3% from my employer. That's contributions. So remember now, contributions benefit the contributor, and the calculation is that it is calculated straight on the gross. So whatever you earn for that month, week, or fortnight, those percentages are calculated directly on that. Now, when it comes on to the taxes, however, we are going to be doing it on what we call statutory income. Now, the statutory income means that we are going to be taking out any allowable deductions before we are going to be applying these percentages. So for the education tax, you will see that it says 2.25%. What it means is that before the 2.25% can be applied to the $10,000, it is going to take out the allowable contribution first. So the two allowable contributions that we have are the threshold and the NIS, the employee's portion of the NIS, or if there is any form of pension income. In this case, whatever the 3% works out to be for that $10,000, right? So what it's going to do first is take out that 3%. I think that's what, $300. I'm not good at maths, but that should be $300. So that's 10,000 less the $300. So what I'm going to be finding my education tax on is not the $10,000, but instead $9,700, right? So therefore, that $9,700 represent my statutory income. Similarly, my employer is going to match that deduction with an additional 3.5%. So that 3.5 is also going to be calculated on the $9,700 as well. And whatever that works out to be, both of them are going to be combined, and it is going to be remitted to the tax office. The PAYE also, just as I had mentioned before, is subject to the value of my earnings. So if my earning is not above the figure that I had mentioned before, which is the 28 and something for the week, the 57 and something for the fortnightly, the $125,008 for the monthly, then you'll find that I may not be paying this one. If you look in the third column as well, where the matching contribution section is for the employer, it says not applicable. What this means, go back on the one I'm on, Winsome. Okay, what this means is that if it is that, no, this remain on the current one. The one that has the columns, right. So the PAYE, which is the fourth contribution in this case, what you'll find is that if I am not over the threshold for base of my earnings, I will not be paying that. But if you look in the third column, it also says not applicable where the employer is concerned. What this means is that the employer does not match this contribution or tax. This tax, sorry. The employer does not match this particular tax. It is borne exclusively on the employee. And also it is subject to the earnings. So I would have taken out my threshold. I would have also taken out my NIS. So these two allowable deductions are coming out first before it is determined if I am to pay PAYE. So once I am below, I don't have this one to pay. So we just want you to understand that. The last one is just for the employer only, and the HART does not apply anywhere at all on your pay advice. It is a tax that the employer alone pays. So we just want to make sure that we understand that the percentages are fixed and the taxes are calculated on your statutory income, while the contributions are calculated directly on your income. Taxes contribute towards national development, while your contributions, it benefits the contributor, the individual contributor. All right. And pretty much that is what it is about in terms of what is it that you're liable for. So if you, when you have been given your pay advice, feel free to go through using the rates, and you can do your own check and balances. What is to be understood though is that once it is that, remember, your employer is already paying over on a monthly basis by the 14th of each month. So they would have paid over the amounts of money to TAJ. So if it is that you find out that when I do my calculation, I realize that my PAYE is overstated. In other words, my employer have withdrawn more than they should. That is when you now apply to TAJ and you will be given the refund of your PAYE. All right. So just note that the employer would not be able to give the money to you as a refund because they would have already paid it over to TAJ. So TAJ would have that money in their possession. So the individual employee will have to apply to TAJ for a refund. And that refund process is an online process that is currently ongoing and one that is very, very active as we speak. And I think that pretty much covers the presentation. We have our contact information that is ongoing. I did mention that our unit, we really do things like these, provide information on a group setting, a platform, or what we call an advisory, which is a one-to-one interactive session And not only that, we have our customer care center, and they provide information in that regard as well. We also have our online platform in which we have a number of brochures. We have a number of information in different formats that you can access just by logging to our website, which is www.jamaicatax.gov.jm. And that pretty much sums it up for TAJ.
Wow, quite detailed, but timely in terms of the sharing. Disha, whoever never understood the payslip before, I'm sure with all that they should have a better understanding and knowing the difference between the taxes and the contributions, and that your taxes actually contribute to national development, and your contributions are there so that you can benefit from them at the appropriate time.
Yes.
And I'm going to be bringing back on the other guests from NHT to come join us on screen as soon as they turn on their camera so we can see their beautiful faces. Unfortunately, the guest from NIS is having some connection challenges and so won't be able to join us for the closing out, but we have had quite a bit of information, a lot of clarity, and I learned something new about the NHT, and I'm sure you all learned something new or had some refresher as to the different areas and what the benefits are, because it's important for us to understand the benefits, how we can access the benefits, and what we need to do before we get there. Because as Mr. Lewin said, for you to access the goodies, there are some things that you need to do first.
Yeah.
Yes, because you have to, it's called a contribution. So unless you contribute, you really can't benefit, right? All right, so let's have final words from our beautiful ladies at NHT. Any final thoughts for this segment? Remember, we're coming back next month, so we can talk to our employers, self-employed, and I'm looking forward to the self-employed conversation, because I'm sure a number of people are self-employed and they don't really know that they're self-employed. So we want to get into that. Oh, I have a question for you. Sharing my story, as I talked about that aspect of it. At one point, I was employed to 2 different companies, family businesses, but 2 separate registered entities. And so the deductions were being done by 2 separate entities. And then in 2017, when I registered my business and was ready to get my tax compliance certificate, only to understand that I owe some monies. And I'm like, what, all the payments were made over? Then I had this flashback to Disha and I were in the same class and we learned about the different calculation of the taxes. And then I remember, you can't benefit from the threshold twice. So that's an area that I want you to talk to us about, because there are a number, especially now, you have a number of employed individuals who are also earning from other sources. We'll get into the self-employed portion later, but we need to let those persons know that once you're earning from more than one employer, that. Yes, so they don't run into the challenges. Thankfully, one moment, thankfully, I knew a little bit about the inside details, so I objected to the and did my own calculations, and I was able to get some clarity. Still working out the details to get it clarified, because it's a detailed process. So please, I don't want you to run into that challenge. If you're not yet there, learn from my story. Go ahead.
Now, what I was saying is that that's not. I'm happy that you brought that up. That is not necessarily just for self-employed, but a lot of us employed persons what you find is that we have multiple skills, and
Yes.
it can be self-employed while employed. It could be that you're asked, there are persons who do probably lecturing. They're asked to do different services. And I can tell you, for example, if Heart probably ask you to, lecture part-time, they are going to do the deduction for you. So luckily that will save you.
Yes.
But there are others who don't. And so what you find is that we have had a project out of that called the double taxation abuse, because persons are turning up on multiple payrolls, and you would have imagined, just as you have mentioned, the use of the threshold more than once. So that's an excellent point you brought up there. Thanks for sharing that too.
Not a problem. So we want to go into details about that next time in terms of how to the employers are to treat with that. Because
Yes.
that's right. Yes. Yes. Final words, ladies, so we can put a wrap on this week and look forward to the next exciting discussion as we seek to enlighten our employers, self-employed. You're muted. Go ahead, no, Miss Lynn.
So for NHT, you get to understand that you're not just paying, it's not a tax that you're paying a contribution, and there are benefits that you get from it. So whenever you're employed, it's something good that you pay. However, a lot of goodies over here. All right.
So we don't want anybody to be upset. We just want you to pay and contribute to nation development and contribute to owning your own home, and just get excited, about paying taxes. It's important. Our roads need to be good. Right, Disha?
Amen.
Yes. So we can preserve those front ends, eh? Yes, and it's maybe more palatable if you say make your contribution instead of paying. We don't like to pay.
No, but you're paid for something that is good. Everybody wants to own a home, right?
But so we contribute towards our future, our nation building, and our luxury at the end of the day. If it's even a one bedroom, it's still luxury compared to those who don't have anything. So
they don't have any money for them. I remember the money is refundable come most January. You spend up all the money for Christmas. So when you look forward for your refund at the 12 o'clock on the January 1st, you can get your refund.
Exactly, because after you spend up all the money for December, right? And this January month end seem to be so far away for those who are employed. Right, but something though, a question was posed some time ago that I wanted to answer for me for the NHT. When you claim your refund, does that affect your ability to benefit from the housing solutions?
No, it does not affect your ability. I normally explain it this way. You have done the time, and so it's the time that counts, the period once you have contributed for the year, and by law it is that we should refund it. So it won't affect you. Don't worry about it. And because a lot of people have that notion that if I claim my refund, I can't get a benefit. But we're here to tell you today, claim your refund, man. It's your money. And then you can come and claim your benefit as well.
Right. So if it is that they want to use the refund to make their monthly payment, if they already have a facility, then they claim. And how does that work?
Repeat that, please.
All right. So I find like say in January, the refund is available, and I might have a shortfall in my my income. So it's good now that we can put it to the account, so the monies will be there to help to pay our monthly. So, for example, I have a mortgage with NHT, and my monthly payment is coming up. That's the way I can use my refund to help to make that payment. But it's not that it has to go directly to, because some people figure that they must pay the whatever refund. They can go to making the payment without it coming into their hand. That's not how it works.
Once you are a
Use it wherever you need
once
to.
you are a mortgager,
Yes.
your refund goes directly to your account.
Oh,
What we have been doing over the last couple of years is that for public sector workers who are mortgagers, they can access their refund. So they get their refund in their hand, and there are those that have made the option not to collect it and let it go to their account. However, as I said though, once you're a mortgager, you can't just claim your refund. Only public sector workers can.
okay,
Others
that's what we
go
need to be
directly
clear
to your
on.
account. Yes, yes.
Right. So if the refund is more than your monthly payment, what would happen in that case?
When you said if the refund is more than your monthly
If-
payment, or when it goes to the account,
as a mortgager, yes, as a
or
mortgager, if it's
under
more
normal
than
under normal circumstances, if your account is not in any arrears, it should go to your principal. If your account is in arrears, then it will apply and take care of whatever is outstanding. And if it is more than the amount, then under normal circumstances, it will push you in a prepayment.
okay, so the entire refundable amount
Everything
goes
goes
to your
to the
account.
account. Yes, we don't
Okay.
hold back any. Once it is, whatever amount is due, goes to the account.
All right. Great. So we have that cleared up. Once you're a mortgager, everything goes to your account. If it is that you're not a mortgager, it doesn't affect your ability to become a mortgager if you take your refund.
Right.
All right. Awesome. And then once you reach a retirement age, you don't have to wait until the 7 years after you can claim your full.
Yes.
All right. I sound very bright. Thank you so much for sharing all of that, because it's very useful information. Because I believe once people understand why it is that we do some things, it makes it a little easier to get it done. So the whole matter of I don't want to pay this becomes more about how can I contribute so that I can benefit from the different things. And when you hear persons out there saying that I'm a taxpayer, so I'm entitled to this, they are right. They're contributing to national development, and so they have a right to demand proper roads, access to good health service and education. But if we're not contributing to that, then there's very little that can be done. Thank you so much, ladies. It was truly a pleasure sharing space with you all. And we look forward to doing this again, look from another angle next month, as we look at things come next week. We start looking at the resource connector as it relates to the business side of things. So we started by looking at assisting those who are leaving school to make that transition. Today, we helped you to understand better your statutory deductions. And so we're going to make the transition now for those who are looking to go into business, to help you to make the transition a bit easier as to what exactly you need to pay attention to, which entities you need to connect with, so make the transition a meaningful one, building the right foundation from which your business can grow. Thank you so much again for joining us for another episode of the SERENITY Resource Connector. We had conversations with representatives from the National Insurance Schemes, that's through the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, representatives from the National Housing Trust, and the Tax Administration Jamaica. They are your friends. You don't have to feel any way about approaching them. And I'm sure that after we go to the next session where we have those conversations, the businesses, you get a clearer understanding as to why it is that the different entities reach out to you is really for your benefit and the benefit of your employees. So thanks again for joining us. Continue to stay safe. God bless, and see you same time next week as we move into episode 7 of the SERENITY Resource Connector. Thank you again, ladies.
You're welcome.
Awesome. All right, let's take